All right, we are live. Welcome to another IPR live session. I am here with some of the brilliant minds of iPullRank, and we are here to just discuss, entering into the digital marketing industry and how to get started. I have my colleagues here, Shawnee Owens, Riley McMillan, as well as Riley McGavern, and I am Aaron Johnson. I'm the senior digital marketing specialist here at iPullRank, and I'll leave it to my colleagues to introduce yourselves. Shawnee, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Shawnee Owens. I am the newest DMA here on the iPullRank team. I've been doing marketing for a few years now. I started off with filmmaking and creative arts in the theater and acting film realm. And then post college, I really stepped into outreach marketing with a nonprofit organization. And so that required a lot of the kind of old school techniques of marketing with creating the flyers and going out and handing them out and meeting the people. But then halfway through that journey, I began to connect the dots between how people are responding post meeting us in person digitally. And so I took a greater interest into connecting those dots, realizing the importance of not only having great things to offer, but knowing how to optimize them and be able to find them online, after you see something cool in person. So yeah, now I'm here with iPullRank and it's going great.
Cool. I'll take it away next. We'll kind of go up the chain, I guess, of the digital marketing analyst, but I am Riley McMillan, the second edition of digital marketing analyst at IPR. I got a degree in marketing and was able to get right into the digital marketing space after school. So I am coming up on 2 years in digital marketing and have really been just kind of like engulfed in the world of just learning everything and all at once. It's been really exciting, and just learning how many different aspects there are to it and how they all play together has been super eye-opening and very just honestly fun. It's just a very engaging space. So IPR has been a great opportunity to learn very quickly and learn a lot. And yeah, I've enjoyed being with the team. So
all right. Well, I guess that leaves me. I'm Riley McGavern. I'm a senior digital marketing analyst here at iPullRank. And I guess, wow, I've already been in the digital marketing world for at least the past 5 years. But I went to CU Boulder, which has a really great communications program. I was in the strategic communications track, so with a focus in advertising. But pretty much as soon as I got to college, I just feel like I was totally drawn into like all things social media, lots of digital marketing classes. And so that was an amazing program for me personally, because I learned so much more about like the ins and outs of social, learning about SEO, working with like some local freelance clients that I had during my time at Boulder. So awesome program that really, really well equipped me for even graduating into 2020, which was a little brutal, but it was something where I was able to like start freelancing, like continue working with the clients that I had already been working with pre-COVID. And then my freelancing opportunity with iPullRank had me join the team full time. And so that was something that was so exciting for me, because where I had been so much more used to, the digital side, where it's like social media or really like that more social side, but getting to really dive into SEO like topics here and really like strengthen my skills in that way has been so amazing. I've learned so much in the year and a half that I've been with iPullRank, and it's crazy how much is out there to continue to learn. So yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I had a bit of an unorthodox past. So I started as a musician, marketing my own music, which led to me doing a ton of freelancing, working with other music clients and working with digital creators, YouTubers, and things of that nature. So I was doing that for about 5 to 6 years before I joined iPullRank, and I've been with IPR for about a year and a half now. But since I've started, it's been, again, to Riley's point, a ton of learning, an extreme learning experience, especially on the SEO side of things. So I'm ready to dive into this. So one of the things that I find really interesting is we all come from extremely different backgrounds in terms of the digital marketing space. So just like we'll start with like, what are you guys noticing in terms of the digital marketing landscape right now for newcomers? Because when I came in, I was just having this discussion before we jumped on the call with Shawnee. When I first started, I feel like there wasn't a ton of knowledge out there. Even going to a 4-year institution, they were kind of behind the curve on a lot of things like Facebook and Facebook ads and a lot of different digital, because again, that was around 2010, 2011. And so a lot of these apps were kind of just being introduced to us. So what does the digital marketing landscape look like to you guys now for like somebody who's trying to get started?
Yeah.
I'll hop right in. So for me, it's kind of like the monster under your bed that won't go away. A lot of people, it was something that wasn't even not too long ago, not very understood or explored, but now it's like definitely ramping up with all the different tools that are being, brought to light now on how to use. And so it's, especially for me now stepping into it like fully with the agency, I'm seeing like all the mechanics that go into how it really works. And it's like such a beast of an industry that I don't see slowing down anytime soon. I think everybody should get ahead of it, or at least, hire a good agency that can do it for you, because otherwise you'll get left behind.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think in my experience, especially like just getting into digital marketing where it's at now, like I think about when I started college in 2016, and a lot of the classes I took were always like super focused in like traditional advertising strategy, like really focusing on like what it's like to be part of a traditional agency. And I think for me, like finally getting to senior year and it's like breaking into those classes where it's like, there's this whole digital landscape that is so unexplored for the majority of people, like what you said, Shawnee. But it's like for me, like going and building like my freelance clients like websites for the first time and like having to look up like SEO guides that I found on Pinterest. And you really do kind of have to bootstrap a lot of it, because I think it's not something that a lot of colleges are quite there yet. But also I think it's something where there's so much learning opportunity, and it's so exciting too, because it's like you go from a point where SEO is like, oh, it's just keywords. I just have to write about these keywords and that's all it is. And then you get in and it's this whole different world of content strategy that I just think is so cool. And like, especially being here at IPR, like with all the things we're learning about like generative AI content or talking about EAT or like all these different SEO concepts that really play such a huge role in the work that we produce for our clients. I mean, I've been here for a year and a half and I still feel like it's my first day sometimes, but in the best way possible. I will say that.
Yes. And to that point, I may have been a little bit behind the curve because I was at a small private college. We were just like in Fremont, Nebraska. So we may have been a little behind, but there wasn't even an option to get a digital marketing focused degree until my junior year. So I was only taking the traditional marketing classes, learning the traditional methods and strategies. And by the time they were even offering it, it would have like added another semester to my college career. And I was like,
I gotta go.
I'll stick it out. And so, yeah, it was even a brand new thing, not too long ago. And when I first got into it, to be fair, I think my marketing degree got me a position, doing digital marketing, which I'm very grateful for, but it didn't teach me what digital marketing really was. And to your point, Riley, like when I learned it, I was taught, it's keywords, like just get the keywords on the page. And basically that's how you get Google to know what the page is about. But I've learned even in the last 2 years how much goes into it. It is keywords for sure, but it's how Google like crawls the page, how they crawl the website as a whole, and how all the content works together. So it's very like we've touched on already. It's just a lot to it and a lot to understanding how it all works. But it has definitely evolved from just being keywords and being a new thing because now it's so complex.
Well, and even to that point too, I remember being in college and like everyone wanted to do like social media marketing because social was cool. You know, it's like you get on Instagram, you're doing Pinterest ad campaigns, and it's like you feel tapped in. But to me in college, all I ever thought of digital marketing was like, oh, well, that's like the ads you see and like the sidebar of a blog, or like you think of like ad spends or like paid campaigns, or it's like, oh, well, that would be like media buying for me then. But I think it's so crazy how like I feel like a lot of people look at SEO and digital marketing as like a very technical kind of marketing, but there really is so much creativity that goes into it. It's really, really cool. Like once you dive in to be able to like meet people who are excited about like all the creative strategy that goes into it.
Another thing is that it's ever changing. Like in the little amount of time that I've been here, it's changed even from since start to now. Between the updates and just the industry at large, it takes a lot of constant research, constantly staying tapped into what's happening in the world. I mean, it all is connected and all affects one thing affects the other. And so when it comes down to the state of digital marketing, as they say, yesterday's price is not today's price. Like it's gonna change. It's constant, and that's why it's so important to be surrounded by people who are tapped into the industry from so many different angles, and that are experts at the field, or at least aspiring to be top tier at it, because like it takes consistent and constant study and research and just trial and error even to what worked, what didn't work. So it's ever changing.
Yeah, and to that point, we've talked about like some of the different stuff, like we talked about SEO, we talked about social. Do you guys like how would you go about choosing what to specialize in, like what you want to do? Because to that point, like social didn't even really like going to that point, social didn't really exist 15 years ago. If you wanted to get into marketing, you weren't going into a social field. So now, like as technology continues to change and continues to, we continue to get an increase in different things that we have the ability to do, there's even more at your disposal that you can choose from and specialize in. So you guys just talk about like niching down and like how you discover what's for you in the digital marketing space.
Oh my gosh. If there's one piece of advice I can give to people, like when you're trying to find like where you want to live within the digital marketing world, it's like try everything. Because you won't know until you get to experience it. Like for me, when I got out of college, I was like, no, I want to like go to LA and do like these social campaigns for like all these trendy brands and stuff. But then it's like also at my core, like I love writing. And like that was something that really drew me to iPullRank because like you don't really think about it, but web writing is such a specific kind of like art form, and like to be able to help inform people and like using search as a channel to reach people, like I love that because you just feel so connected to the people that you're creating the content for, where it's like maybe in like more traditional channels with like television or print or like all these different avenues where you're trying to get to people, you don't always get to see the result of like what you're doing. But there's something so satisfying about SEO and like on-page SEO and like content writing where it's like you can immediately see when the stuff that you're putting out there is helping people because your rankings go up. And so to me, that's super satisfying because it's like, I know I'm doing good work. I know people are finding the information that I want to help them find. And so I think also like there's a lot of disillusionment with social now, for me at least, where, it's something that's so shiny and like pretty, but I don't know. I feel like the avenue for search, at least for me, feels so much more authentic. And I appreciate that a lot because sometimes when you're like on Instagram and you're just like scrolling through ads and you can't even tell like what's an ad and what isn't, to the point where it's just kind of like it gets exhausting. So I like that there's a lot of freshness around search and that it just feels very genuine, like right up front.
And even at a wider lens than that too, like within search. There's so many different avenues like within organic marketing, but at a wider lens, like I've had introductions to paid, to conversion rate optimization, to email, to all of the avenues of digital marketing. And just to your point, Aaron, of like which niche has kind of stuck with me has been just SEO as a whole, because it's not free, but it's free. Like you're not paying to reach people. Like what you do in SEO and what optimizations you make on the website, like with the content, with the background technical stuff, that is going to it's always going to like bring traffic, and it's not a continual outreach of we need to pay to show up first when someone looks up our name on Google, or pay a social media influencer. It is essentially a free ongoing way to reach more users, and regardless of how many times Google's going to update their algorithm, which seems to be constant. No matter what, like as long as you do have an optimized website that is following SEO best practices to some degree, because it's going to change. You're going to be bringing in traffic, and people are theoretically going to be finding your website as long as you're doing what you can on your side of things. And that's why SEO really stuck with me, is because like I don't need to spend $100,000 to reach 20,000 users. I could theoretically put in the time up front, make the website look good in terms of content and on the back end, and I'm always going to be bringing in that traffic.
Yeah, I think it's great advice to learn everything. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but I think that you absolutely should have basic knowledge of most of what goes on in digital marketing. I know, like, if you're trying to get in at a larger organization, even if you work in social, you're more than likely going to be working with the SEO team. You're going to be working with the PC team, because everything in marketing works together to drive results. And then if you come in at a smaller organization, more than likely they're going to ask you to wear multiple hats. Like they're going to need somebody to manage the social channels while maybe still doing some back end stuff on the website, to ensure that the organization is like seeing results and that they're being seen across these channels. So having that knowledge is really important. And just stepping into digital marketing without knowing how some of these things function is kind of setting yourself up. Totally.
I think like, especially if you're a strategic minded person and you love building out like advertising plans, or you love doing competitor analysis, or like these are the kinds of things that get you excited, and like seeing the holistic way that like digital marketing plays into like your social team, and how like you feed off of the work that your entire agency is doing together. Like it's so cool to like watch a client flourish and like really help them push their boundaries, where it's like what they can be, and encouraging them to be like, yes, like we believe in you, and like we're gonna help you do it.
Yeah. So for you guys, I know for me, like just thinking about like skills that, like, if I could give somebody advice in terms of like what skills I feel like they really need, I feel like, to Shaunae's point about like this being an ever-changing industry, I feel like adaptability is a huge one, like in terms of just like when you walk into, because right now we're going through this age of like generative AI, and that's kind of the conversation. But in the marketing industry, it's changed the way a lot of us are doing things. All of us are now starting to use these tools to be more efficient, to get stuff out the door quicker. So if you're trying to get into the digital marketing industry right now in 2023, you need to know what ChatGPT is. You need to understand how these things work. And so that, to your point, is something that 2022, 2023 was sprung on us, and now we're all of us as marketers are learning how to use these tools. So it's a constant learning experience of you getting knowledge, and then sometimes things work, and sometimes there's an algorithm update, or sometimes Facebook gets in trouble and they have to change a bunch of things, and now
Mm-hmm.
You're left trying to relearn everything that you, all of your best practices have gone out the window for the last 5 years that you've learned.
Oh yeah.
Are there any other skills beyond that you guys can think of that just like would really, really bode well for somebody if they're trying to enter into the digital marketing space?
The first thing when you said that came to mind was courage. So it's funny that you like the first thing you mentioned was the AI and how it's such a new thing, and a lot of people are afraid to really jump into it because it just is such an unfamiliar territory. I know in the theater world, at least, like I haven't heard anybody talking about it just because it's not something that is applicable. So I think it takes courage to kind of go into it and make sure that you're not afraid of trying new things, afraid of exploring, afraid of just seeing how it works. And if it doesn't, like using that information to move forward and make adjustments. And to that point, I think also organization and definitely being able to pay close attention on how all the dots connect. Like you have to remember what happened last month in order to know, how can that inform this month, or what information can I catch from last month that ties into some data that we discovered this month. And so I'm a big calendar girl, organized, look at all the dates from the beginning of the year, and now we're here in April. So like I'm big on like track record, right? And how all the things build upon build upon the last thing. And I think that is also a good character trait to have when it comes to digital marketing and analyzing the data.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think if you're someone who loves to learn, like if you have lots of different interests, this is a great career path for you because you're always going to be working with different kinds of clients. You're always going to be learning about totally new industries. And I feel like I'm probably the most well-rounded I've ever been in my life because of this job, just because I'm forced to learn about stuff that maybe like I don't personally have an interest in, but it gets you excited about it, and I think it makes you a really like well-rounded, like more interesting person for it. And I think just also like having that curiosity, like always wanting to continue learning, is something that has helped me immensely. Like never being afraid to ask questions, even if you think they might sound dumb, because chances are everyone else is having the same questions that you are too. So I think also like this is an incredibly collaborative field. Like if you love working on like a dedicated team and you love like having your coworkers at work where it's just like you can rally together and like get stuff done, like I think digital marketing is a great path to pursue.
That's so true. Everything you said was like spot on. That's all true.
No, but I mean, like I come to work every day and I'm excited because of the people who work at iPullRank. Like when Macmillan and I get to like co-work on stuff together, like we're working with Zach, who's our director of SEO, or like Kyle, who's like literally a content genius. Like you couldn't ask for like more interesting and like cool people to work with. And so it is really exciting to like have coworkers who are like so into it as you are. So that's a big draw for me too, is like I'm a big people person. So like the fact I get to come to work and like be in a remote workspace, but it doesn't feel that way, you know?
Yeah. And I think also like to the point of endless learning potential, because like I was writing an article earlier, and when I first started working on the project, like I was having to do a lot of research, a lot of like looking up what this meant. And then I noticed today, I was like, I'm really zooming on this thing. It was going fast because at this point I've like seen so many of them that it's rolling out. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's not necessarily a topic that I'm at any other point in my life looking to research or know about. But now like my knowledge on that subject has grown exponentially. And if it were to come up in conversation randomly one day, who knows where, I'll feel like an expert on it because I've gotten just a boatload of knowledge and information just from me having to do the research and producing the content behind, the topic. So I thought that's really cool.
Yeah, to everybody's point, I feel like the big thing is just like digital marketing is a lot of experimentation.
Yeah.
there's a lot of testing involved. So if I could give another piece of advice to anybody starting, it would be don't get too emotional about things. Because it can be frustrating when you are doing something and it's working, and then something happens, whether it's again an algo update or something like that, and now it's not working anymore, or like you're striving for results, and certain things aren't working. But it's kind of like you kind of have to have the mind of a scientist, where like you're just like, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to test it out, we're going to see if it works, we're going to look into the data, and like the data will tell us if it works or not. If it works, we'll double down on it. If not, like we'll pivot and figure something else out. But you can't get too enthralled and too wrapped up in like, oh man, this didn't work, or like, oh, like I'm not doing a great job, because like that's part of your job, is to test things. Works.
Yeah.
It's like you just got to turn around. It's almost like kind of being a mad scientist, where you're like, you got to have that little spark of creativity to keep you going on the days where you're like, oh, like we just put so much time into this, and now it's like, it's exactly what you said, Aaron. Like you can't let yourself be bummed out about it, because that's just how the field is. Like you just have to keep trying new things and like keep trying to like find the thing that works.
Yeah, I think kind of to everybody's point, that encapsulate just being curious. Like don't be emotional about it, just be curious. Because one of the recent updates, or at least a recent article I know I saw, is like Google started randomly kind of like dropping some FAQ snippets from the SERP. And like that's something we harp on to clients all the time, is like we need good FAQ content so that we can show up in the SERPs. And it's like, okay, well, why? Like, what is going on? So you, instead of being, defeated by it, you just have to be curious of like, okay, well, how can I get around this to now drive results in a different way? And that helps you just stay, I don't want to say curious, but like it is the best word, is it just helps you stay interested and engaged of, I get a problem solve a different way now. And, it's still good to have the knowledge that you had before, that, knowing how to originally optimize for FAQ content in this case, but how can I use that to adapt and just find the new solution, I guess. So I'd say curiosity is a big one as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously, we're here trying to have a conversation to help some folks get into the digital marketing industry. So in terms of finding jobs, like creating your personal brand, building your portfolio, and actually, sourcing jobs, how would you go about it? For me, like it was a lot of freelancing. For me, it was a lot of trial by fire, just like trying to figure stuff out on my own. But now there again, with social and like there's so much information out there that is available to folks. So just like, what are some of the things that you guys are seeing in terms of like different ways that either you yourself have used, or things that you're just seeing to break into digital marketing?
That is such a good question. I would definitely say for me, like any opportunity you have to like do internships, like go after like part-time jobs, like whether it's like a social media, like where you're helping post stuff, or like literally anything you can find to do, I would say just like get after it. Because it almost, in a weird way, like if you think of Mad Men, where it was like back in the 60s when advertising was so competitive, that's what digital marketing feels like now today. I really do believe like this is kind of the cutting edge of like where advertising is going, which is really exciting, but also like kind of crazy. But for me, I was very similar to you, Aaron, where it was like tons of freelancing, like reaching out to anyone I knew. I was like, I will make your website for you. Like, please, like, let me just try. But no. And then also just like, you really have to like be your own biggest supporter. Like, build yourself a portfolio. Like, don't let those things like hold you back from like trying to talk to people. Like, show your work, like have examples of your strategy, because like if you're doing good work, other people are going to hear about it and want to talk to you. And like that's the thing I'll just say, like in my case, or it was like through a lot of referrals, or like being told like these are the people you should reach out to. It can make a huge difference. Just like you have to put yourself out there. And like, I think that's the hardest thing for me, because it was like coming out of college in 2020, I was like, I'm so nervous. Like, I don't know how I'm going to break into this industry, and like really wanting to be a part of it. But you really do have to put yourself out there.
This may be cliche, but I'd say to have the confidence to ask for the confidence to ask for the opportunity. That's what I did. You gotta have, I had the confidence to ask, and also to continue to be open to the opportunity presenting itself to you, right? So if you know that digital marketing is something that you want to explore, and maybe you don't have that much experience with SEO or that much experience with an agency, I say to still look for the opportunity because it's out there. Go and put yourself around people who've done it, connect with people who've done it. And then the dots will connect themselves. And then at that point, just don't stray away from what you feel you have the potential to do, because it, as we've said, is an ever-changing industry. There is so much to learn, and anyone who's in the industry understands that. But to the same point, it's a learnable industry. It's not changing so fast that you can't still grasp it. And at this point, I think we're still at the very beginning stages, and that's my perspective because I am new here. But that there is still just so much more to do with all this new technology that's coming about. And so, like, it's not too late to really hop out there, experienced or not experienced, if you want to do it, and just go for it and surround yourself with people who know what they're doing to help teach you and guide you through it.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially, to Riley's point about internships, when you're first getting started and like building your portfolio, the other thing is don't sleep on volunteer work. That might sound like an old head take, but like volunteering it still will get you. There are a lot of nonprofits that don't have budgets to hire a freelancer, but you may be able to come on and do social work or do SEO work for their site, and you can add that to your portfolio. And the other thing is that we all have passion projects that we work on, and if you're doing that and you're marketing yourself, document it and put it in your portfolio. We're again, some of the first clients that I got as a freelancer when I was working in music were all based off of marketing myself and showing them the work that I had done for my own music, which got me in the door, and they thought I did good work for myself, and so they wanted to work with me. So those are definitely two options. If you have, even if it's like your friend has a business that they're trying to start, or just jump in and see how you can help them out and add that to your portfolio, because again, it doesn't have to be that you did work for Amazon or Google. These things matter, and when people see good work, they're going to want to hire you.
And when you had mentioned before, like when it comes down to your own brand and whatnot, there's definitely value in the process of practice. So like, even if it's not something you intend to add to your portfolio or want to publish, because maybe you're like a little shy to it, or it wasn't what you wanted it to be, or it turned out how you expected it to, when you get to where you're going to get, then you'll have that documentation to show the progress that you made. And that's not even necessarily in regard to it. I mean, it does relate to getting a job, but just like to your own confidence and to your own personal brand of what you're capable of and how far you've come in the industry, I say definitely just go ahead and start documenting what you're doing, the practice that you're taking on doing something in the industry.
Yeah. A question that I had for you, for Riley McGavern. I was going to say Riley, but in your time freelancing, during that time, just because that's another avenue to get. Or at if you want to get into an organization, freelancing is a good way to go. But freelancing can be tough sometimes. so
it can be so draining. Like, you really, as a freelancer, you got to have boundaries. You got to protect them, because you know, it is a different kind of like avenue where it's like you could be working with like your favorite client ever, but you know, they're still gonna like ask for as much as they can from you. And it's you gotta really like stand up for yourself, like ask for what you're worth, because that's something huge where I'll like be talking to people who are just getting their start and hearing like what they charge for like the services they provide. It's like, no, like you gotta like charge more than that. Like you gotta know your worth, because the skills like that you can have in digital marketing, whether it's like amazing like online copywriting or like having really strong knowledge of SEO concepts or all these different things, it's like people want that. And so if you're bringing the value, like you deserve to like have people recognize that. And I think that's also like how I started at iPullRank was like I literally was like, give me as much work as possible. I love doing this work with you guys. And that was kind of what opened the door to where they were like, oh, well, now we're looking for this like specific digital marketing associate role. Would you be interested? And for me, I was like, yes, I would love to keep working with you guys. So I think that's another thing is like, it's so true. Like in freelancing, like you can have like the most amazing clients. And then also you can have clients who you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just going to pretend that never happened. But it's also like any experience is good experience, even if it's tough. And like that's something like I really had to like kind of toughen up when I entered the industry is like people are just like they're moving at a million miles per minute. So it's just you got to stay on top of it, but also like just stay centered. It's going to be okay. And like you're doing a good job. And I think that's hard for a lot of freelancers is to feel like they're staying on top of things or like they're like keeping up with industry trends. And I mean, there's so many resources now. Like we have 2 amazing podcasts at iPullRank that Aaron helps produce. And like there's so many great resources like when you're in that position, whether you're freelancing or you want to work for an agency. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point with agency work, I definitely advise. I was told this when I was freelancing and kind of didn't recognize it until IPR, but agency experience will help you a lot because as opposed to going to when you're first starting out, as opposed to going to a larger organization, sometimes those teams can be a little bit siloed. So maybe you're just doing social and you're not getting any experience in anything else like that. But the agency experience early on could really help you in the long run, to the point that we were talking about earlier about learning everything, a little bit of everything. Working at an agency for me has definitely expanded my knowledge, and I was freelancing for years before I even got here. But there were so many things that I walked through the door and I was just like, you don't know what you don't know until you
Exactly.
So yeah, for sure, I would definitely advise like join a team, come on down to iPullRank or join an agency, get some of that experience, because you will learn a lot more on some of these smaller teams where like you're juggling a couple of things and learning along the way from all of the all the folks like Zach and Garrett, Mike, who have that digital marketing experience that have been around for a while now. So yeah, definitely.
Well, and kind of the beauty of an agency too, I feel like with freelancing, like it was really easy for me to just like, well, I'm just gonna do like content writing. That's what I want to do. Or like, that's just the jobs I would take. But at an agency, it's like, you're building this deliverable, you're learning how to do this, you're going to learn how to do reporting. Like you have to learn all these different pieces of like all the different deliverables that our whole team works on together. And like, if you're not actively seeking that out when you're freelancing, it's so hard to have that kind of professional growth. And like, I think it's exactly what you said, Aaron, where it's like, you step in the door and it's like, all right, like we have a lot of work to do. Like, let's go.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's extremely fun to get the opportunity to consume all that knowledge at an agency. And then I feel like, afterwards, if you move on to another organization, it makes it that much easier to like jump in and be able to help, in a variety of different ways. And you're getting experience in usually at an agency, you're going to be getting experience in a variety of industries as well. You're working especially if you're, client facing and you're working with clients, you'll be able to work with a variety of industries and kind of figure out where you might want to, land a home at. So definitely a good idea to get some of that agency experience. Something that I did want to touch on is like, for me, I talked about this, it was kind of trial by fire, but like mentorship and like finding mentors, whether it's like at the organization that you work with or, outside of the org, like can you guys just speak to like, finding a mentor, or even, sometimes people have silent mentors where like sometimes it's on you to soak up the knowledge, and the game that people are giving to you while you're at an organization, to make sure that you can take it with you further in your career. So can you just speak to mentorship and finding mentors?
Yeah, I think I know in my experience, like I've kind of noticed there, like you said, there's maybe two, or probably more, but like two main ways to get a mentorship or just learn from someone who has credibility and a lot of knowledge. And it is like, yeah, you can watch someone on YouTube and have a silent mentor and just kind of soak in as much as possible. But in my experience, especially here, like I think we've all kind of had a layup with like having Zach and having Mike, and like a part of that is you may have the mentor like kind of handed to you in a way, and like the resources we have here with Mike, with Zach, with everybody on the team, Michael, like you have to still take advantage of that. So even if, you don't have to go out and like do your own searching for a mentor, when you have one that is going to provide good knowledge, like don't sit in the back and just like not be engaged or whatever the case is. Like you have to ask. And that's been like such a great resource here, is that Zach and Mike and everyone else will they'll almost, like tell you to ask questions, not even like, oh, I'm here if you need it. They're like, no, like stop struggling and just hit me up. So it's like, yeah, you could have the mentor, but you have to take advantage of the resources that they provide. But other than that, like you said, it is, maybe you do have to go on YouTube or follow Mike on LinkedIn or follow him on Twitter or whatever the case is. But
definitely follow Mike on LinkedIn.
But yeah, I would say the biggest thing is just making sure that you take advantage of what's there. I've always been a question asker, but because I don't like to just sit and struggle in silence, like it just doesn't benefit anyone. But if you're not asking questions, and if like something confuses you, because this can be such a confusing space, there's so many changes, like it's not going to do anyone any good if you're just sitting there struggling. So when you find that person, whatever, whether it is an online mentor, if it's someone in your agency, just like step out of your comfort zone and make sure you ask the difficult questions. I hate the whole like no question is a dumb question, but like there's a reason you have it. So just make sure you're asking them and making an active effort to digest it and not just like hear it, if that makes sense. Like really take it in and use it.
No, and that's even something that I think is so unique about IPR. So Chantel, who is all of our manager of the DMA team, she's literally the coolest lady ever, but she is such a huge like supporter and proponent of like reaching out to people and like getting them to help you learn things. And so earlier at the beginning of this year, back in January, she was like, Mike's right here. Like, you guys should go hang out with him. And so now every other Friday, we have like an hour-long, mentorship session with Mike, which is crazy to like be this early on in our careers talking to someone who's like totally a thought leader in the space, and like getting to learn the way that he understands digital marketing and SEO is like such a privilege for us to have, especially working here. And so that's something where it's like there's no judgment. Mike is like, we'll literally ask him like, tell us about like how you would do a site audit, tell us how you would like explore this SEO concept. And he's like, okay. and we just sit for an hour and talk, and it's so funny. Riley and I love it because it's just like it could be any question, and Mike's like, "All right, like let's go."
It's so weird. Like I've said this in our meetings before, but like he doesn't. We show up to the call and he goes, "What are we talking about?" We give him a one topic and he's like got an hour-long spiel on it, and it's all like
Yeah.
so knowledgeable, and it's just crazy that it comes so quick. But again, it's just to the point of like he's such a good mentor and has so much knowledge for you to take in that you have to take advantage of it. So Chantel advising us to start this mentorship hour is going to be not only huge now, but like it is going to set the stone for being really good at what we do in the future. And yeah, it's been a great experience for sure. And that's, just kind of to the point we're talking about is like, use that when you have it.
We're really blessed to be in a position for mentors to be built in to our work experience.
Yeah.
But I would encourage people to set that as a mandatory notion to, like, if not directly from your job, then whatever you choose to engage with or in that is of interest to you, hobby or creatively, or something you want to learn, like, I wouldn't do it unless there is someone who is not only like open to mentoring, because some people might not want to actually mentor, but just are actual leaders in their industry and doing the work. Like, even if they're not really going to be sitting down and answering questions or committing an hour to you as a mentee, like to just be in their presence and be able to actually watch them work and shadow, or just like let it rub off on you a little bit, right? So I would encourage people to make that like a mandatory factor of how they are able to grow in the industry that they're in.
Definitely. Well, and even just going off of that, like a really big piece of advice that I would give is when you're in these meetings with these people who are so knowledgeable, like actually listen. Like that was something where it's like I kind of had to get over like the gaps in my knowledge where I was like embarrassed about what I didn't know, to just like actually soak it in as like we're having client calls and like we're talking about these like really complex like technical SEO concepts. And for me to just be able to like listen to Zach or listen to Mike or like Michael G and just absorb it, it is so beneficial. And I think sometimes, like especially at an agency, you can just feel like it's so go 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 all the time, but really like taking those calls and like taking that time as an opportunity to like professionally develop yourself, I think is very underrated.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned professionally developing yourself as a whole, because I was just going to say is, whether you're in digital marketing or whether you're, in retail or whatever the case is, like, don't just seek mentorship in the topic itself. Like, reach out to the Chantels and the Vitals of your company to like learn the other side of what you're doing, because like we learn so much in how to handle clients as a whole, and how to manage projects, and how to organize groups and your team and get everyone on the same track. Not just learning SEO and not just learning content, whatever the case is. It's just taking everything from everyone who has something to offer. Because Chantel has, just done so much for us in terms of like, here's how I'm approaching what this client said and how we should, attack in a solution. So learning outside of just your industry is going to help you, when you're doing industry specific work.
Yeah, for sure. To that point, McMillan, we have so we've set up some meetings with Chantel and Vital where it's like marketing and client services every Friday. And for us, for myself and Garrett as the internal marketing team, like, we're surfacing insights from Chantel and Vital about our clients that are making us better marketers. Like, it's helping us to market the company better by sitting down and listening to what client service is doing and what they're hearing out in the wild from our clients.
Yeah.
So you definitely can receive this information from all different departments at your organization or other mentors. It doesn't just have to be another digital marketer, because again, like those insights are extremely valuable.
Yep.
No, I just like every day I'm like, thank God Chantel is my manager. Because like you don't get so lucky to have someone who just like cares so much about the development of her team like she does. And so that's one thing. Like if you get a manager who like really deeply cares about your development, lean into that as much as you can and like give that energy back, because you're only going to be a better marketer or a better business person for it.
Yeah, that's such an incredible point. I know, like coming into IPR, I've said this kind of a bunch of times before, but Garrett like really set me up for success once I came in here, despite the fact that he was like going on, leave and everything like that. Like in that 2 weeks of time, he like completely streamlined everything for me to where it was like, all right, so like for the next 2 months while you're here, like you're good to go. And I didn't really feel like I didn't feel like I was like lost in the woods, which is kind of weird when you first come into an organization.
Yeah.
And throughout that entire process, like, as the 2-man like internal marketing team, like learning from Garrett about like things that we do on the back end of the website and things like some of the SEO knowledge that I might not have in terms of like or might not have had when I first came on in terms of like internally linking and things like that, has been extremely, extremely pivotal to like me being able to like really process some of that knowledge and turn it into like, okay, so like from this point forward, this is how we can repurpose the content. This is how we can change things on our site to maybe perform better. It's just like when you go into, for anybody who's going into digital marketing, when you go into the interview process, that interview with the hiring manager is probably the most important one that you're
gosh.
because
Absolutely.
who your manager is makes such a huge difference in terms of what you're going to be able to accomplish in that role. And at IPR, we just have like leadership is phenomenal. So I think across the board, everybody feels like they can do their role to the best of their ability because they've been set up for success by leadership, and that's really important.
It is. Well, and that's even just like, gotta shout out like our content team with like Kyle and Simon. Like, talk about 2 people who are just like totally like content wizards. Like, oh my gosh, the amount of things I've learned from them in like the past year and a half of like being full-time with IPR is just insane to me. Like, I'm such a better writer because of like Simon's mentorship with editing. Like, Kyle definitely is the kind of person where it's like, let's hop on a call, let's brainstorm together. And it's just, I think like absolutely to your point, Aaron, it's like really when you're like interviewing and you're meeting people, like look at those people who are in the room with you. And like, if you can see yourself working with them and having fun and like getting stuff done, that is going to be a huge difference, because you should be excited about the work that you're doing. Like, marketing's fun. It's a great industry to be in, and I love it. So
I think another great thing about the mentors here is that they equip you with what you need in order to succeed. They push you out to go out and succeed, but then also like they care about what the result of your success is or your failure is, because it's all interconnected. Like, I think when there are people who have mentors and it's like they're preaching at them, but they don't really check up to see how you did with all that knowledge that I gave you or all that mentorship that I sold you, right? But like at IPR, everybody is really rooting for you to succeed. And like to your point, Aaron, when you said like Garrett, he really taught you how to do it and then he had to go. So you really had to, put that into motion. So, and even with Kyle, Riley mentioning him, like he really was able to mentor me on how to get the content done. And then he was like, all right, here you go. But then he was on constant checkup to make sure that I was okay. And then like I'm able to really, help out with that now. So I think that the best mentors are the ones that really care about how you are able to succeed in their absence, because it's connected to them.
And I'll even like go a step further with that, is something I'm so grateful that we have here is all of the DMAs at IPR are super tight. Like, we work on so many different things together. And I think like having that kind of like environment where it's like people who have been in your shoes before, like any kind of advice like that you could look for, they're the kind of people who are going to help you out. And I think it's really, really positive to have that kind of workplace environment where you don't have to like, you don't have to worry about asking questions. You can just be yourself and like not have to hold stuff back, and people genuinely want to help you.
Yeah, I think knowing, I like Shaunae's point of like, they're not just gonna tell you, here's what you do and go do it, and like you're just off on your own. Knowing you have a mentor that not only is going to tell you how to do it and like let you ask questions as much as you need to, they're going to check in and they're going to like make sure things are actually going well once they've given you the instruction. We also even have like mentors who are going to not even just check up, but like literally come help you do it and like do it with you. If like you're struggling, they're like, okay, I'm going to drop what I need to do. And like, I'm going to make sure you're set up for success. Like we have Cami helping us write content, which is like amazing. And it's just been so helpful. It's not just, yeah, I see you. Like, I know you're in a difficult spot and here's what I can, like, here's what you should do to make it better. Or I'll kind of just give you advice. It's literally like, I'm going to drop what I can drop and I will like actually dedicate time to come, take the burden off of you. So having a mentor who will also kind of, run through the fire with you that's also huge, just in learning and not feeling as behind or stressed out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And in terms of mentorship, just before we wrap up, like don't sleep on your peers either. Like when you come into it, like it's not just leadership. There's a ton of stuff that I've learned from everybody at IPR. Michael G recently wrote this really good article on a blog post on robot.txt files, which I had no knowledge of before reading it, as somebody who isn't like super familiar and is still learning SEO. And so there's so much that you can learn like across the aisle, like to your point, like you'll be able to learn you may be able to learn about content. Kyle may be able to learn something about SEO. It's just there's so much that you can learn from across your organization from different people. So when you have certain questions, like even if leadership, sometimes they might be handling other things and they're just too busy, there's always somebody at your organization that you can reach out to that might be able to give you a helping hand. So don't sleep on the people that are already there and have already gone through the gauntlet and been in your shoes before.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah. Mentorship doesn't have to be top down only. Like there's so many people around you who want to help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I definitely want to touch on before we get out of here is just like continued education and resources. We've kind of been drilling this home the entire conversation. Like you don't get to just come into digital marketing after you get out of school and just like you learned what you learned and go through your career and then you retire at 65 or whatever. You're gonna like this is school for the rest of your life. you're gonna be learning for the entire time that you're a part of this as the industry continues to change. So just like what resources do you guys have and like what have you seen out there that's been helpful for you starting your career?
Oh my gosh. For me, I'm really grateful I have a really strong alumni network from CU Boulder. So I would say like if you know like people who are in your major or people who are pursuing similar like professional like paths that you are, absolutely reach out to them because you can learn so much and like learn so many different parts of digital marketing and like really dig deep into that. I also really like Women in Tech SEO. They have so many amazing resources and like especially like it's kind of funny to think of myself as like a woman in STEM, but like this is such a data driven industry and like we are doing so much hard work every single day. So like finding those communities where it's like you can really like be around other people and like learn so much more. I think that's so valuable. I mean, iPullRank has tons of great resources. We got our blog, we got SEO Weekly. Like, oh my gosh, what more could you ask for?
Little plug there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the best resource is us. Like,
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, you guys crank it out. It's consistent. Like it's definitely a consistent ongoing crank out of content. And I think that like a lot of people, if you're interested in learning something new, you just have to surround yourself with it, even if it's not something that you may understand the language off the bat or not. Like I think just letting it feed your subconscious in a way, like follow the IPR pages, follow any of the people that you're interested in being or aspire to be like, follow them. And just so that when you're mindlessly scrolling or find yourself like looking up at something one day, then that is what you see. And that's kind of a way that I've learned to kind of just constantly be in learn mode without even necessarily trying or knowing what resources I'm interested in or what resources would work for me. It's just like, okay, if this is in my niche of interest, then let me at least just like put it in my atmosphere so that I can be constantly exposed to it, and maybe something will stand out, maybe it won't, but either way, my subconscious will be constantly learning and indulging in that topic.
Yeah.
Real quick, the one resource I've been like really trying to dig into, which, you know, prioritizing client work first, has kind of slowed it down a little bit jumping into it, but like I'm on the technical side a little bit and trying to learn more of that. And one thing I'm trying to do is learning like kind of an avenue of SEO and of content is like code, because so just to that point, it's like learning something that may not be digital marketing per se, but it's in the world and it affects or just has an impact on what we're doing. Because I'm trying to learn how to look at code, and like that helps me understand websites, which is going to help us just better optimize websites for our clients. So another resource is just kind of thinking outside of the box, finding like what isn't digital marketing maybe, but you know, it plays a role, and finding resources there. Like I'm starting a free code camp. It's like a whole scheduled out kind of test or whatever it is. So I've just tried to find different ways of like, how can I just not only improve my skills like all around, but how can I learn specific skills that are going to impact what we do here, that may not just be, you know, reading an SEO article from SEMrush or whatever the case is. So that's another big piece of advice I'd give, is just thinking outside the box, finding something that's along the same vein, knowing that it can not only grow you as a whole, but just your skills overall and what you're doing.
Like games or things that don't necessarily traditionally come off as like studying or
Yes.
you know, training. It's like my cousin bought this investment game the other day. It was like Monopoly, but like it's teaching you how to invest in properties a different way. And so like just playing that game, it was like a fun way of just being exposed to things I wouldn't know what to look up or what article to read, because I didn't know what I don't know, like he said, Aaron. So yeah, just like little fun stuff.
Definitely. And even just like for me, I love to read as much as you can. Like I love to like, I'm subscribed to Adweek, like just having these different parts of like advertising and like marketing going through the back of your mind. There's so many great opportunities to like find inspiration from these things and like pull them into like your own personal strategy and like the work that you do. And so I would say like absolutely look for the fun and like learning, because like it's always going to be there and there's so many different resources. But just I would say read as much as you can and listen to SEO Weekly, because that's really how I learn the most.
Best episode every week.
Every week. It only gets better.
Only gets better.
Guys, this has been incredible. Like I'm sure like a lot of folks that are listening have learned a ton. And so of course, you know, we want you guys to definitely follow IPR on LinkedIn. We will be continuing to do these live sessions around different industry updates and SEO, as well as just digital marketing as a whole and new topics. So stay tuned for that and follow the IPR page. Check out our website, as again, resources. We've got everything that you need in terms of, we've got the Rankable podcast along with the SEO Weekly, along with some of our other content assets like our blog posts. So if you're trying to learn about SEO, or you're trying to learn about how to get into digital marketing, or if you're trying to learn about generative AI, definitely hop on there and check out some of our work. And we will catch you next time.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.